All right, let's do this.
Welcome, one and all, to the Exclamation Mark Podcast, the podcast that always has enough mana. I am Crofton Steers, your affable host, here to spin you tales of video game glory. And with me, as always, is my co-host in this endeavor, the one, the only, the Boest of the Schwartzes, Bo Schwartz.
Hello, most Crofton of the Steers. How is it? How are you doing today? And isn't it great being the best at something?
It is. If there's one thing I'm the best at, it is having the name Crofton. I have yet to meet another Crofton. One time I thought I met another Crofton, but it turns out it was a company. So it wasn't a person.
That's an awkward encounter. I would say.
It was good because there's this company called Croft and Moore, and they were like this architect company. And I always thought, like, I would walk around Montreal and I'd see these signs saying another Croft and Moore building, and I'd be like, God damn that Croft and Moore, he's way more successful than I am. I hate him so much.
Yeah, he's weighing in on your namespace.
Yeah, people might meet me and be like, oh, Crofton, just like Crofton Moore, the famous architect. And it turns out that actually two guys, one with the last name Crofton and another with the last name Moore. So,
their last names.
Yeah, so they can...
see, I know that feeling because in Ottawa, where we live now, there is a beer known as Bo's Beer, and I'm fairly certain it's named after a first-name guy with Bo's Beer. And he's like, my name is unique enough that people are like, oh, but now they equivocate my name with are you the guy that works for the beer company here? And, I just want to be like, first of all, the beer is overrated. It's okay. Support local, whatever. And second of all, I'm way cooler than the guy who makes all that beer. I do a podcast about video games. Let's see him try and make a podcast about video games.
There may be a lot of podcasts about video games, Bo, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is the only one that has a host named Crofton and a host named Bo.
You're damn straight.
So see, we're number one.
And we do a few other things unique, like we're not going to be talking about The Witcher today.
Oh yeah.
Like every other show and news site is all full of like on which console or system does Witcher look better? PC or Xbox?
New patch today, Witcher looks slightly prettier than it did yesterday. News at 11.
Watch this unique way that the wind blows Geralt of Riveria's hair in this YouTube video, and it's like, oh god, it looks amazing, but I mean, come on.
I think that like when people are starved for AAA content, which is a bit what the situation is now, when a game like this hits, it hits like an atom bomb, and literally everyone's playing it. It's the equivalent of like the Avengers or something when it hits in the movie theater and everybody goes to see it at once. So I understand, and like even I was really tempted, but there's a reason I haven't indulged yet in Witcherdom. Two reasons. Mostly, I'm still a little tentative because I never finished Witcher 1 and 2, and even though I enjoyed them, I'm not sure I want to lay down a huge whack of cash for a game no matter how hyped it is. But secondly, I feel like, Batman's coming out in a month. I'm going to want to play Batman day one. I know I am, and I also know I have a limited amount of time, and there is no way I finish The Witcher by then. So I would drop The Witcher to play Batman, and who knows if I'd ever go back. So I feel like it's a disservice to The Witcher for me to play it now when I don't have the time to play it. But I know I will play it. Bo, will you play it?
Someone asked me that question this week. I can't remember what the conversation was about, but basically I've purchased The Witcher 1 for like $5 on Steam, played it for a few hours, dropped it. Purchased The Witcher 2, played it for a few hours, and dropped it. And I'm afraid that's what I'll do with 3. So I'm waiting.
I'm going to wait till it's cheap.
I'm going to wait till it's $5, and then I'll play it for a few hours and then move on to something else. That's probably what's going to happen with me.
I feel like that this will be the next big Steam Workshop type game. Like the next game that's like, so Grand Theft Auto 5 PC version is out right now, and if you go on Reddit for 2 seconds, everybody's putting out these videos like
I saw someone with a machine gun that shoots out cars at high speed. Really awesome.
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So I think The Witcher will be one of those. It's supposed to be this big open world sandbox, really PC friendly. So we'll see. And then I think it'll be, if it has legs like Skyrim, people are playing years later. I think that you'll find yourself attracted to it at one point in your life.
It's true. I still watch. There's a Skyrim weekly video where this guy makes reviews of mods. The game's been out forever now, like 3 years, 4 years. And
2011, I think.
yeah, I still watch those videos to see what the latest mods are because it's of interest. So talk about keeping a game alive in the news cycle. Support a mod community. So maybe you're right.
All right. So if we've turned off all viewers that are like looking for some Witcher news and stuff, we've alienated all of them. We can now move into the rest of the show. And what is that first segment that we like to do, Bo?
It's a little segment called readme.txt.
readme.txt.
Man, modems take a long time to connect to the internet. Whew.
I heard one of those at my work the other day,
What?
and I was I was like,
There's
what
a
the
modem at your work?
well, we lost power this morning, and then when the power came back, I heard sounds like that, and I was like, what is going on? But it turns out it was just somebody watching a video with a modem in it.
Oh, that's pretty funny. All right, so top of the news this week. Arkham Knight has a trailer, and it's live action. I saw it. Yeah, we
you watched
tweeted it
it?
out on the official EXM Podcast Twitter account at EXM Podcast.
Oh, yes. Follow, please.
It kind of... I'm not a big fan of live action trailers, so I imagine there's a full video one of it, or is that the first we've seen for this game?
Well, no. There's tons of video out there of
Okay. That's the first I've seen.
gameplay. They made a creative choice out this trailer. They chose to do this live action trailer, and I remember when Infamous Second Son came out, Sony did some live action trailers for that. I don't know if it's a superhero thing, and they want you to feel like all these superhero games are often sold on the idea of being that superhero, and the slogan for this is "Be the Batman."
Elder Scrolls Online did, I think, a live action one, or no, Elder Scrolls itself, Skyrim had a dude in the Skyrim clothes walk around.
Well, you sometimes see them too for like mobile games that are now advertising on TV. Like they'll be rendered at the very least. Sometimes they're like Kate Upton walking around with a bunch of people.
Upton, oh god!
But it's live action. In all the boobiness, it sort of, you lose track of the fact that it is a live action trailer for a little mobile game. But in those cases, it's a little more understandable because like mobile games don't have much, whiz bang pow in terms of visuals. So of course you're going to do that, right? But like for a game like Arkham Knight, you could show some sweet gameplay footage, and they're choosing not to.
Yeah, I guess so. In a way, it's sort of a seduction thing where you're teasing, but there's that cool skeleton-looking guy I couldn't identify as a villain that they showed in the trailer. But there's a new trailer and there's hype around it. I thought it was a little. I mean, okay, it's not the first gaming piece of whatever to be accused of being irresponsible, but it was a little bit like when you're attacked by muggers, you should fight them.
Yeah, no, I made that. I was like, yeah, this is not.
It's like a series.
cool.
It's a series of scenes of people doing what your insurance company and your occupational health and safety committee would tell you not to do in those situations.
I like playing Batman games and I like playing superhero games, but like nobody should want to be Like you want to be Batman because he's cool, but like really, Batman is a psycho.
Yeah, he's He's not a role model by any
No,
stretch.
you play him in video games because it's like it's awesome being Batman in theory, but in practice it would be horrible, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'm still super stoked for the game, but this trailer has in no way made me more stoked. I'm of even stokedness.
All right, and I'm about as stoked as I was previously. I just thought it was worth mentioning since we
For
love our
sure.
Batman games here at the exclamation mark podcast.
I love Z. I love you, Arkham Knight.
All
I'll write
right,
fan fiction for you.
you should now. You shouldn't joke about that. You should write a Batman comic. All right, Oculus facing another lawsuit. So Oculus VR and Palmer Luckey accused of breach of contract and fraud. So I thought this was kind of hilarious because the company that's suing them is called Total Recall Technologies. I believe that is the name of a book and a movie. It's like, you stole our ideas. And I'm like, clearly, you didn't have very original ideas in the company naming department. The Hawaii-based company says in its filing it hired Lukey in 2011 to create a prototype VR headset. And they say he signed a confidentiality agreement. And then later on, throughout the latter half of 2011-2012, Luckey received feedback and information to improve the design of the display. However, they say Luckey used information he learned from his partnership to launch his Kickstarter for the head-mounted display known as the Oculus Rift. And so this isn't the first company to come and file a lawsuit against Oculus. ZeniMax, which owns Bethesda, also accused Oculus VR of stealing virtual reality technology. So, in summation, some rich companies are suing other rich companies because that one rich company has a really awesome idea and is owned by Facebook, and they want part of the money or something.
I don't know, man. This one, I think you're oversimplifying. This one
I am
sounds
oversimplifying.
a little douchey by, like, on paper, if it's true, Palmer Luckey essentially had a job, a day job. He was dreaming of Oculus on the side, but he was given an assignment to create a prototype virtual reality headset in which he signed an agreement, and then he left the company and took, after probably getting paid to develop this thing, cashing some checks, and then all of a sudden being like, hey, I could make a sweet VR thing for gaming out of this, leaves the company, and then turns it into his own business. Like, I know we're all excited for Oculus and we're all excited for gaming, but if this guy was getting paid at his job to do something and signed an agreement and then ran off and took his inventions with him, well, I mean, they might have legal cause here.
Maybe. Like, I think of every company I've ever worked for, I've had to sign clauses of this nature. Even for, like, I've worked at Starbucks, and they make you sign this stuff just in case I invent some awesome coffee transmission technique, and then I go and sell it. I leave and start my own coffee company. They've invested money in me as an employee. The reality is that they don't listen to any of their employees. Like, you go to work for places, you have all kinds of great ideas, but their leadership has their own ideas and agenda on things. So if you actually have that brilliant idea that can change, make big changes in the world, and you get told no by your superiors, the thing to do is to go leave and to go forge your own road. I guess the whole question of intellectual property always sort of like, there's a whole open source movement on the internet, and it's like corporate protection of assets and secrets and information sort of runs counter to that philosophy. And Oculus walks a fine line with all that because they feel like they're a grassroots organization because they started on Kickstarter, but then you forget that Facebook owns them now, and they're just as that they have that taint on them of they're not open source, they're a corporate entity.
And also like, I mean, the way you make it sound, it's like, oh, this poor guy's working at this company that doesn't listen to him, and on his free time he made this virtual reality thing. What they're saying is they asked him to create a prototype virtual reality headset,
Yeah.
and then he did, and then left with the headset and is now selling it. Like, and if that, I'm not saying that's the case. If anything, the most suspicious element is that these guys are suing him so late in the game, maybe smelling money in the air because he's been bought out by Facebook. But if what they're saying is true, it doesn't look good. I'm still excited for Oculus. I'm just saying that, like, looks like the company had maybe a little bit of a dubious start.
Yeah, that could very well be. I mean, we don't know what happened, but you're right. They did ask him to start the VR technology. So it could be they had a disagreement about direction and he went to go his own way. So I don't really, I'm not taking a side on this. Just give me awesome VR experiences. And I just see people fighting and suing each other as like impediments to this because it's already taken, a long time. So,
Well, the good news about it to me is that it feels like people see that there's money in this. Like, no, as I said last show, nobody has made money on VR yet. This is all like everybody is feeling this is the way of the future and that there's going to be big money to be made. But it is unproven tech at this point that it can be mass market sold and everything. And so the fact that these lawsuits are going on is at least a good sign because it shows that everybody seems to think that there is money in this, and that may be good for gamers who want to experience some sweet VR.
I think that's a really good point, and that's the good news we should take away from all of this. All right, moving on to the next item. Blizzard explains why it removed Heroes of the Storm character's cigar. That character is Tychus, and if you've played StarCraft, you know that he not only smokes a cigar, but he closes his helmet with the cigar still in his mouth.
He's pretty much known for smoking stogies.
Yeah. And, it's this, when I was perusing through news articles, this came up and it's been a big sort of, I've played a lot of Heroes of the Storm. It's a subject of conversation. Like, it's so lame. Why did they make, it's part of who his character is that identifying cigar. Why did they make him take it out? And essentially, the game, Blizzard actually felt it was important enough to actually make a press release or a public statement about this because it's irked enough people. And it just has to do with meeting teen ratings worldwide through a number of regions because apparently smoking is like...
Yeah, that's what I was gonna guess that before you said anything. Like, I bet StarCraft is rated at a higher level, like it might be M for mature or something like that. Whereas Heroes is lower. So Jim, like I played a bit of StarCraft, and Jim Raynor is constantly drinking the booze in the bar while Tychus is smoking the giant cigar, and there's a fair amount of blood and gore and that sort of thing. So I feel like that probably to adapt it to a more PG friendly game like Heroes, it's just like Kratos is in from God of War is in the Sony brawler game. What is it, like PlayStation All Stars or something like that? Okay. And Kratos doesn't like decapitate people like he does in God of War in that game. You know what I mean? Like they had to
tone him down.
Obviously he's fighting like cartoon characters from Little Big Planet. Like he's not. This is a game for everyone, and they put him in there from an M-rated game, but they have to adapt him. So Tychus Finley is just lucky he just lost his cigar. He could have lost a lot more.
Lost a lot more. You know what? I don't care what they do to him. And you haven't played it, and I don't want to spoil it for you, even though it's been years. But the character,
I'm into it a little bit. I'll go back.
All right, then I won't say anything. But the character's such a douchebag. I mean, he's a douchebag right from the beginning. He's a total douche. So I actually don't like playing him in Heroes. All right, moving on. The most popular MMO on Steam. Crofton, what do you think it is?
I think that it is.
It's definitely not one of our favorites, PlanetSide 2.
So World of Warcraft, you can't play through Steam, right? It's not on Steam. No. I'm going to say Final Fantasy XIV, a new beginning thing.
Nope. The most popular MMO on Steam is Terra. Have you ever heard of Terra?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think I heard. It's the one with the better combat, I think.
Yeah,
right?
It marketed itself, and I've actually tried Terra on its kind of, I guess, Legend of Zelda type mechanics where dodging matters. Like, it's not... Most MMOs have an auto attack system, so you click on something, you auto attack, and then you push hotkeys to do extra moves on top of your autos. And this game kind of has that, but dodging, like you push buttons to do your attacks, and you have to dodge out of the way of super abilities. Mind you, I haven't played too much, but there's a the little the rolls that characters do in games, like the dodge rolls. They even do it in Dark Souls and stuff like that. Like you can do that in this game.
It's more skill based and less like cool down, you know, that sort of thing. Like more twitchy, I guess, if you want.
A little bit. Like I didn't play too far in it. It still felt like World of Warcraft playing it. Like it didn't feel that distinct. You know, there's quest givers and exclamation marks, the namesake of our podcast, and you know, there are monsters out in the world to go kill. You can form up parties to go kill them. I imagine there's a lot of other similar stuff. So I didn't feel like there was enough new or unique about the experience to keep me like wanting to play, but I did try it.
Well, you know what's funny about that is that like just this week I saw a list of like the top most popular MMOs and stuff in the world. And World of Warcraft is like third or something on that list.
Oh, really?
And I couldn't believe it. And then I looked to see what the most played games were, and they were legit games I had never heard of.
Like Korean MMOs or?
Yeah, number one is this game called Dungeon Fighter Online. I had never heard of this game in my life.
I feel like I've heard it, but my mind is not bringing up anything.
And it's like a 2D type game. And it's really popular in China, and that's what it comes down to. And they got a ton of MMO players, so it doesn't just Terra being number one does kind of surprise me a little bit, just because you know, I feel like it doesn't get much press, and it's on a Western system like Steam.
Yeah.
But it's still a little.
What's number
surprising.
2? I'm just curious.
Number 2 was something not Maple Story.
Maple Story I've heard of.
I think it was like Fantasy Westward or something like that. Or
Okay.
Anyway, it's some other game that's in Japanese or something. So I don't have the list in front of me, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So I found it a little surprising because I thought maybe Terra was a game that was. Having tried it a while ago, I thought maybe, it's doing shitty. Like, this is another game that's going to go free to play and eventually close down or whatever. So interesting to hear. And keep in mind, Star Wars: The Old Republic, is that on Steam? Definitely the Elder Scrolls is on Steam.
It's Origin only, I think.
Okay. But definitely the Elder Scrolls game is on Steam. Like, I found it pretty surprising.
Yeah.
All right.
So Rockstar, maker of Grand Theft Auto fame, files lawsuit against the BBC of British television fame for a fictional drama television show. It's going to star Daniel Radcliffe of Harry Potter fame, based on the creation of GTA games, and in particular the tension with anti-game lawyer Jack Thompson, who would be played by Bill Paxton of Twister, the movie fame, or Aliens, obviously.
And he was in Nightcrawler too.
He's in a lot of good shit, honestly.
He's like everywhere, that guy.
My props to Bill Paxton. He was in Titanic. So he was in. Bill Paxton would be playing anti-game lawyer Jack Thompson. Jack Thompson, if you don't know who he is, just Google him. But you'll probably get a picture of like the dictionary with the heading douche written on top, and then there'll be a picture of Jack Thompson. He's not very relevant anymore, but he had his moment in the sun where he was sort of railing against games. So BBC was making a movie, a miniseries based on Jack Thompson's conflicts with Rockstar, and in particular with Sam Houser, who's one of the co-founders of Rockstar. And it was called Game Changer, or to be called Game Changer. And let's just say Rockstar has now shut it down vis-a-vis a lawsuit. And what I find most interesting about this is how far they got. Like, if they didn't have Rockstar's permission to begin with, how they could have gotten to the point. They're done. They've done filming. They're editing. They're getting ready to air this thing. Well, and I don't understand how they could get so far along without Rockstar.
Well, I think like the Social Network was a movie made about Mark Zuckerberg, and that was not with Facebook's blessing in any way, I don't think. So I don't know that they shut the movie down, but I think like if you're making a movie about a company, it's way better to have them on your side than not. But the problem with being a corporation is they're super concerned with how they're portrayed in media, and if you're trying to be honest about a story, or if it's unflattering, like I think this story is unflattering to a company that doesn't want to highlight its history as much as it wants to highlight, you know, what successes in its current public appearance. Like, you think it's more like a case of that, where it's like, nah, we don't need people to know about our like rough history. That stuff's in the past. But, you know, a filmmaker might be like, I see a story in here. I just want to tell the story.
I always thought the Hausers were well regarded in the gaming community, and for what they've done at Rockstar. I feel like it's more like reveal. I don't know. I feel there must be some stuff involved in it that we're not aware of. Maybe it just takes too much of the focus away from their games and places it on behind the scenes personalities. I'm curious to see this, and like Daniel Radcliffe and Bill Paxton are big actors, especially for like a BBC show. So I mean, maybe I'll see it sometime. In the meantime, I'm still going to play Rockstar games. I'm playing one right now.
Yeah, it seems weird. I think this is just. I think you have big corporations and their legal departments just have knee-jerk jobs to do. Wait, whatever.
Maybe
like it's just they've got to go around and protect all of their assets when people just kind of want to use them, and I don't know. It sounds like they want to make sure that they're depicted in a certain light, and they have no control over how that is, so they're protesting.
Possibly.
But I don't think they can stop it from being made, but we'll see. I'll definitely be watching it. All right. Blizzard confirms Mounted Flight won't be added to Warlords of Draenor. So this has been a subject of conversation since Warlords of Draenor was announced. Initially, they told people, guess what? The flying mounts that you've been using for the past since, 2000 and whatever, since Burning Crusade, basically, you're not going to be able to use them here because what's happening in World of Warcraft is that you can, your quest is from this person and you got to go to this point and do this thing and then come back. And there might be an experience in between that, but what you could do is just fly up, fly over everything, fly down to what you needed to pick up, fly right back up, go back to your quest giver. And while this is highly efficient from a I've done this quest 5 times with different characters kind of point of view, it's very bad for an initial experience to be able to just skip all of it that way. It's not what the designers intended. So they said, we're not going to have it from the onset, and whether or not it was going to be added in a later patch. World of Warcraft expansions usually have 4 or 5 key patches that add significant amounts of content throughout the patch lifecycle. So they've confirmed now that they're like, you know what? We like the game without flying in it. We're just not going to do it. And I think this has a lot of people up in arms because, A, they charge about $25 per mount for people with fancy mounts. And that's not including fancy mounts obtained from collector's editions of getting other of their games. That definitely diminishes their value. And just in-game time, you have to get a license to fly. It takes a lot of gold. It can take a lot of time to have earned these things. And for them to take this away has irked a lot of players. That being said, I think that being a World of Warcraft player, I can definitely see how flying has undermined a lot of the content. And certainly Draenor has been a lot of fun because you couldn't fly.
So are they removing the flying from the entire game?
No, it'll be available in older sections, but I mean, the most pertinent content in the game right now is in this Draenor zone. So unless you're a new player starting out, you spend like 90% or more of your time in Draenor if you're going to be playing this game.
When you laid down your money for your flying doohickey, was Draenor released at that point? And if not, can you still fly your guy in the areas that were released at that point? Because if so, then I mean, they didn't necessarily promise you'd be able to fly your guy in everything released in the lifespan of World of Warcraft, right?
No, I think it has to do with communication and customer expectation, which is just that for the past 4 expansions, flying has been a thing that you could count on. And they were a little bit cagey about saying, we'll introduce it later, and then we'll think about it, and then actually we're not going to do it. Rather than just saying, this is the new expansion, there will be no flying. So there's been a period of time where you could buy mounts, assuming at some point you're going to be able to fly in the new zones, and now you can't. So I think the presentation or the lack of decisiveness about it was probably what's to blame about some of the, upsettedness about this.
I hear you. I don't play World of Warcraft, but I can relate to feeling screwed.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's the news, and I think that's all we got to say about that. Let's move on to something a little more relevant to us.
You're always talking about making kids' minds like vegetables. Talk about them out in the street smoking pot.
This is Games Per Minute.
How do you feel about cutting his head off? Fun.
All right, so this is Games Per Minute, where Crofton and I just talk about the games that we've been playing. I'm going to go first and just say I've been playing Heroes of the Storm pretty much all week. I haven't touched another game. I've watched a few other TV shows, checking out the new Community and the Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The second season's up on Netflix here in Canada. But apart from that, my game time has been exclusively Heroes of the Storm. And there's not much to say that I haven't covered last week, so...
There's nothing new that's happened in the last week?
No, if you don't have it, like I was on Experience Points with Scott Johnson on the NVIDIA channel on Twitch last Saturday. We won both of our games. It was a lot of fun. We also did some streaming earlier in the week. So we've been streaming some games. We're trying to form Team Chocolate up for the Frog Pants All-Stars tournament. But there's nothing to say, no developments, other than I'm definitely officially on the Team Chocolate team. But apart from that, no.
Well, so if you're going to be live streaming this stuff, can we like tweet out through the EXM account when your live streams are up, or links to them, or are you already doing that?
Yeah, I did that for the Experience Points ones. I tweeted out on Bo Schwartz and retweeted it on EXM to let people know.
Sweet.
It's not like I'm featured. I'm just on the team. But the one thing that did happen was that I talked about this last week, actually, so never mind. Just that people have been asking to see Nova, and then I get super nervous and play poorly when I pick Nova after somebody asks. And I'm like,
you're becoming an all-star, Bo.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is Gorath. For those of you who don't know, he's going to be well regarded in the Heroes of the Storm community for years to come. I'm sure. I'm confident in you, Bo.
Yes. So because the game has been rewarding me in sort of this way, I've just been like, I could play The Witcher and play with nobody. I'm gonna play Heroes, and yeah.
It's the whole like multiplayer community versus single player thing. Like, I understand sometimes you're in the mood for one, sometimes you're in the mood for the other. I find multiplayer games are like, they're the ones that are harder to get into because often there's a bigger barrier of entry.
Yeah.
You got to learn the game. Nobody wants to get pwned over and over and over. But once you get into them, then it's like that's when the magic happens, right? So you're past that barrier. You're an all-star.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sweet deal. All right.
I will say the one thing that I feel bad about is I want to get back into Elite Dangerous, damn it. It's a game I continue to want to play, but I keep playing Heroes. Maybe I'll play some Elite tonight.
Well, maybe you will. But like whenever you want that, like Elite seems like it offers a good counterpoint in that you can have like these moments of peace and quiet while flying your spaceship, as opposed to like the absolute chaos of Heroes of the Storm, right?
Yeah.
So,
what have you been playing, sir?
Well, it's going to be another repeat week for me, which is that I am still playing Xenoblade Chronicles on 3DS, and as I started GTA 5 on PS4 last week, and I am also playing that again. I'd say both these games are beefy games. They're long games, and so it makes sense that it takes me a long time to play them, especially with my limited time. But one thing, and Bo, I'm not sure if you've been in a situation like this where you have two games and they're both, they might be offering complete different experiences and they're both competing for your time. For me, it's very rare that they're both able to sustain that balance for long. One of them is generally always going to kill the other one. Like, you're at one point you're going to like just fully commit to one. And do you have any? Do you remember any sort of situations where that's happened to you, where like you've been playing two games and you just drop one?
Yeah, I feel like Dragon Age happened with me. I've played it through twice, the original Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the competing game was, which is funny, but I know it lost out to something else. Like I was playing
Dragon Age lost out.
Yeah.
That's funny that you remember the game that lost out and not the game that beat it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what it was. I can't remember for the life of me.
See, for me, I remember the distinctive moment in my mind was I got this is in 2004. I got a new computer before 2004, so obviously a piece of shit by our standards. By those standards, I called it the Beast, and it was like
Is that the one where you had the fan set up,
Yeah,
like an
just
actual fan because it didn't have a fan?
yeah, all right. Let's not reminisce too much about the failings of that beast. But I had been out of PC gaming for a long time, so there was a couple of games that had released in that span that I wanted to play, and so I got both the Warcraft 3 Battle Chest, and I got which I paid a fair amount of money for. Blizzard games never that cheap, like it was in store. And then I got the original Deus Ex or whatever for like $10, and it was like a CD in a jewel case, real cheap. I played both the games at the same time. They're completely different games. One's a first-person game where you have a lot of different choice, kind of a first-person shooter. The other is a story campaign based RTS, right? A Blizzard style.
Yeah.
People know what Warcraft is. Anyway, it was just funny because I do a map in Warcraft or whatever, and then I go and I play a little Deus Ex, but then at one point I was just so into Deus Ex, like it just overtook everything, and then I just dropped Warcraft 3 entirely, and I think I finished maybe one of the campaigns in Warcraft 3, and I have never ever, I have like the Frozen Throne and all the extra shit, I never went back to it. I never played any, like Deus Ex just destroyed a Warcraft 3 eventually for me. And now it's funny because I told myself, I've played GTA 5 before. Last week I bitched about the morally bankrupt protagonists, but
Yeah.
I've been playing it, and
This is your second playthrough, right?
Yeah, second playthrough.
Yeah.
However, the two big differences between GTA 5 this time and last time are, number one, the new shiny graphics at the PS4, really impressive. And I know that people are playing the PC version with even more pimped out graphics, and kudos to them. But like, I am really impressed with the graphics. And secondly, the first person mode, which I'm making a point to like try and play the game almost entirely in first person mode. And
Is it like some janky thing they add on? Because a lot of third person games that have first person, it's like, ugh, why would I? Like Warcraft has first person. You don't play World of Warcraft in first person. Is it worth experiencing GTA 5 in first person?
Yeah, it is absolutely made with about as tender, loving care as you can think of. Like, it is extremely, extremely well made. You might as well be playing a first-person game, right?
Do you have iron sights and stuff in that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of like changes.
That's really not what I expect from a Grand Theft Auto game.
Well, but see, the thing is, when you play it, you also realize how little time you actually spend shooting guys, because it's not like a first-person shooter. You're walking around the city, you're driving, and driving is one of those things. Like, I drive in first person in Far Cry 3 all the time, or Far Cry 4, but doing it in GTA, it's different. Like, I checked my blind spot the other day. Like, this game is totally made for the Oculus Rift, and I'm sure that there's going to be mods or something that's going to work with the PC version, or maybe Rockstar is just going to wait it, like Sony has their own proprietary Morpheus VR technology. Like, it is made and ready to go. This thing just makes perfect sense to play in VR, and it almost, like, when I'm playing it, I almost feel like putting the game aside and just waiting until they figure that out, because I know that they're going to do that, right? So and when you walk around in first person, like, the world is so detailed, it's ridiculous, and it's so fun, especially with the higher textures and all this, getting a sense of all the little details they have in the game, so you can look at all this stuff and interact with all these things. And like, there's so many levels to the game. Like, the game has its own entire internet built for it, like, in the game you can go on the internet and there's hundreds of pages developed for it, all kind of jokey, and that's just like the icing on the cake. There is just tons and tons of stuff. And so I've just been walking, like, I've been playing through the game and stuff, but I've also been just walking around looking at things, taking things in, and, there's been very few more immersive open world games that I've ever played. So that kind of is making up a little bit for the fact that, again, all the things I didn't like about it the first time, I'm not sure I'm going to be in it for the long haul. But it definitely has impressed more on the second playthrough. I'll also, Bo, an example, and they did this in Grand Theft Auto 4 too. This is an example of how much work they put into these games. When you're going on a mission or something like this, if you die and reload,
Okay.
and then you drive you're driving through the mission again. The voice act they've recorded like 3 different scripts pretty much for each mission, like, so your characters will say different things the second time on the way to the mission. It'll be the same content more or less, but they will have a different conversation.
You mean like just like a flavor conversation, or
it's flavor, but man, there is a shit ton of it. So I mean, just the sheer amount, like, I'm playing the game a second time and I'm hearing a lot of things, like I'm pretty sure I never heard this banter before, this conversation before, because if I got a mission right the first time, the first time I played it, then there's a good chance that I never heard the extra content that they built, you know? So I mean, that's ridiculous when you're recording like multiple versions of the same setup kind of conversations for your game. You know, there's some serious work involved, and I think that's why they keep trying to. They've essentially released GTA 5 3 times now, and each time they're making a shit ton of money. I feel that they're probably going to do it again with Oculus or whatever, but or have some sort of addition. But yeah, it's an impressive. It's just impressive in scope. It's really impressive. So, and I'm still playing Xenoblade. But it's getting
the good old Xenoblade, the game competing with Grand Theft Auto 5.
I know, and it's funny because like here you have this graphical powerhouse against this little 3DS game, which is based on a Wii game, and I still have a soft spot for the JRPG. But I realize how long this game is going to be because these games are huge. I even took a sniff at a walkthrough, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to be playing this game for ever. So part of me realizes that, you know, I might not have the patience for that maybe I can play it in drips and drabs. If I go to the cottage or something during the summer, I can, you know, play it a little bit and that sort of thing. So
you better hurry up and finish it before Batman comes along. Remember, you're on a clock. You got a month.
I know. I'm gonna.
You're like.
Batman's gonna wreck my world, Bo.
Yeah, but the good news about Batman is it's not gonna. It'll be a lengthy enough campaign, but it probably won't.
Yeah, it'll take me. I bet you, I'll have a solid Batman month.
Yeah.
Like, I'll or maybe even less. Like, I'll play the shit out of it for a certain amount of time. But then, yeah, you're right. And I almost I'm starting missing in this world of GTA 5s, Witcher 3s, and Xenoblades. I'm starting to miss games that are like I can finish it in 6 hours.
Like,
you know,
contained, experiences that are fun but don't necessarily take forever, like FTL.
I got a podcast in which I got to talk about games, Bo. I need shorter games.
Yeah, I that should be a conversation we have sometime, because I think that quality over quantity is pretty important. We did kind of talk about that when we talked about The Order. What is it, 1887 at one point?
Yeah.
But,
no, I'm looking forward to Batman a lot because for me it's just the right campaign. I found Infamous as well to be just like that sweet spot where I wasn't getting sick of it and that. So I'm hoping that Batman will repeat that model, and then it allows you to play on a higher difficulty and get more out of it as well. So should be awesome.
All right. Well, do you have anything more to add on the games we've been playing before we move on?
Well, I'm going to save up because I got tons more to say on GTA 5, and I got a feeling that I'm going to be talking about it next week. So might as well keep it locked in, you know?
All right. So then that's signed, sealed, delivered into the ether. And now we move on to this. Now that there's one fine dialogue tree. Best Southerner impression on the internet. This week on the dialogue tree, where
That voice sounds familiar.
we debate a topic in the heart that's captured the hearts and minds of gamers worldwide. This week we talk about the possibility of view-to-play games in our gaming future as becoming a real possibility and what that means. So there's a lot of to-play sort of acronyms floating around. Pay-to-play, free-to-play, pay-to-win, but view-to-play is the whole mainly championed on mobile, but you find it in lots of gaming examples where a game is made available for free because you've agreed to watch its advertising. And I think that can mean both native advertising, which is advertising that you kind of don't see or don't notice, or just blatant like Windows in some corner of your screen. And I have a few apps that do this on my desktop where it's just like they show you an ad. And it's like, upgrade to premium for $10 to not see this ad. But, you know, this kind of... And what prompted this was actually there was an article on GameSpot. I was talking about some pretty big names in the gaming industry starting to form a company whose sole objective was to make games that are view to play as this sort of... That's the direction they feel the future's in. And they want to get out ahead of it. It's not VR, it's view to play. The company is called Future Play Games. So, Crofton, you know, I've said all this scary stuff about advertising in games, and I'd like to know how this all makes you feel.
Well, gut reaction is I hate it, but the thing is that I'm so detached now as a affluent 30-something adult. I'm so detached now from the idea of not having enough money to play games. Like when I was a kid,
you
money
mean
was
rich? I'm just kidding. I'm so detached from not having enough money for, you know, it just sounded funny to me.
No, I know you. Yeah, like, well, it's just.
But yeah, you can afford all the games you want. Your heart desires.
When you're a kid, or like even, you know, games are generally pretty expensive. Like, and we've talked in the past about how their price point is being pretty much locked down for AAA games.
Yeah.
You know, $60-$70, $80. Like that's generally what it's always been. And I just talked about games like GTA 5 and Xenoblade Chronicles or whatever that can last you countless hours. And so that's really like I don't mind spending that money, and when you compare it to more expensive hobbies like boating, I don't know, cars.
Boating is like the biggest money sink. If you ask our good friend Michael Hodgins, I'm sure he'll go on a rant.
They're giant money sink for sure, but like there's different hobbies that cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And now I realize that like video games, like what differentiates a super rich person? Like I'm talking super rich. Like let's talk Floyd Money Mayweather rich.
Okay.
Like what differentiates him from me in terms of what he can do video game wise? Not a hell of a lot. Like he could have a tricked out PC. He could have a PS4. Like
you can have all the consoles and giant screens, but
it's really like I have a large TV and a PS4. Like I mean, the cap for video games is pretty low in terms of the money.
I would say
spent.
if you measured it and like if there's some sort of units of measurement to measure how much your enjoyment you're getting out of a game, let's call it enjoyment points. You know, the difference between spending a ton of money and the money that we spend results in a very small difference of enjoyment points. You know, like you can get that first like bump of enjoyment points pretty easily by buying nearly anything.
But I feel that this view to play games would definitely affect my enjoyment points. Just like in the free to play games with the microtransactions, like if you just run a cursory Google search in terms of most profitable games, it doesn't take a genius to find out that these games are the most profitable. They're making way more money, but they do that oftentimes by being unbalanced. You mentioned like the idea of pay to win, but also like they hook whales, like people who are, you know, the one guy who's willing to pay $4,000 on a game as opposed to getting a bunch of people willing to pay $60 for the game, right? And so you can put shitty unbalanced games out that make a ton of money because of that. And so this view to play thing, for me, what I find frustrating is already with these freemium games on mobile is you see a bunch of ads for buying things in the game. Like I played the Spider-Man Endless Running game, and they were always like pop-ups saying like, "Hey, there's a sale on this in the store." Blah 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 blah. You know, like there's already a bunch of ads, but it's for shit in the game, which is already annoying to me and takes me out of the game. Imagining that shit being stuff outside of the game just seems like tremendously distracting and would take me out of the immersiveness of the experience.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, my first inclination is that most games I've played, the best ones have been front to back immersion experiences, which includes not only the graphics, but your feelings about the menu and about your navigation throughout all the game systems. It matters. And putting an ad in there is bad. Like, I kind of already get irritated when ads appear, like, in world games, like cleverly placed. You know, if you're playing, like, I don't know if there's any in Grand Theft Auto or not, but if there was a Coke ad in my Grand Theft Auto game, that would irritate me greatly.
It makes a little, like, I could see how it would make more sense. They could do it in the open world. Grand Theft Auto is all about satire, so like Sprite is Sprunk, you know, like
Yeah, that's
they're
fine. Yeah, like that.
they're all jokes.
That seems acceptable, even though it's sort of advertising, but it's kind of making fun of them, and you know that Sprunk is probably not happy. I mean, Sprite is probably not happy about being Sprunk. Sounds a little bit like Spunk, and that's kind of funny.
I think that's the idea.
But you know, I went to see Avengers 2 recently, and it made me really upset because I don't go to the movie theater often because I have an awesome TV. But yeah,
He's eligible, ladies.
I like how I've got an awesome TV. Like, who doesn't? Go out with me and you get to use my awesome TV while we make out. But they showed like ads for cars and for crap, and you know, it's like I'd pay extra money to the movie theater to not have to watch a movie, like an ad that wasn't a movie trailer. And on the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast, I said advertising was good, but there is a time and a place for advertising. And, you know, the time for ads is not after I paid you to watch a movie on your big screen in your theater, a-holes. And the time for ads is not while I'm trying to get my bird to flap through the pipes correctly. I'm busy. Don't show me ads while I'm playing Flappy Bird.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I do like, I guess, like pop up watching an ad, because Spotify sometimes says, "Hey, listen to this song, listen to this brief thing, and you will get like 30 minutes of commercial free listening or whatever, or an hour of commercial." So then you click listen, you listen to whatever 5-second thing. So imagine, if you will, now, say a game like BioShock, let's say a game that completely advertising makes no sense for, in the world of the game or whatever, and they say, okay, BioShock, $60, whatever, you want to buy it, you can play it, no ads, free or whatever, or you can play it for free. Mm-hmm. But every so often, like when you first boot it up, you have to watch, you know, this car commercial. Then you can play for half hour, or whenever you save your game, you have to watch a commercial. I don't know. Like
I see what you're saying, though. There are interruptions throughout your gaming experience.
That's like the interruption you would have while watching a television show, you know? And it's like, but the merit or the added thing that you get is that you didn't pay $60, right? So now, in my case, there's no question I would spend the $60 because, like, A, I want to reward the game developers. B, I would not voluntarily inundate myself with that. But that's because I can afford it. But if I'm like, you know, 13 or whatever, and I'm just, you know, don't have a ton of disposable income, and I want to play the new hotness, and I have a way of playing it for free, I just got to watch these commercials. I mean, I guess I can see it as a valid option.
You know what that makes me think of, though? Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm like, I'd be happy for 13-year-olds to get that experience, but they're just going to see ads for stuff they also can't afford that they're going to try and get their parents to buy it. It's like, I'm like, doesn't make it. Now parents won't ask to buy games, but they'll ask to buy, like, new He-Man toys or Star Wars figurines or something. Like, you know, it's... I see how it makes sense, and it's probably good for advertisers, but I still say that game, you know, we live in an age now where I can watch Netflix and watch TV shows without ads in it and watch the series back to back. And as an art form, TV series, like serial episodes of things are kind of taking off because they're not shown once a week. They're not riddled with interruptions. There's this sense of investment in watching and engaging with what you're seeing. And it's like, so television's moving in this positive direction that viewers are really happy about. And where it's like these nefarious people in gaming are like, how do we put, people really seem to dislike ads in their TV. Let's try and put them in games. Like, we've already established that games are immersive experiences. And I think even if it's a silly game, I don't know, I'm going to stand stern and be vehemently against any advertising in games.
I think
that isn't relevant.
I think gaming is like it's an emerging I want to say art form, but it's not always art, but it is emergent where television has been around for a while and is currently still going through sort of a transformation into this streaming service. But people have been arguing that for the past few years we've been in what's known as the golden age of television. I think video games, we are not necessarily in the golden age of video games. I almost feel it may have been a few years ago, or there may be a new one coming again, but like I feel like we're trapped in this ground where people are the double A's have been squeezed out. There's now triple A games, and then there's indie games, and then there's apps and a lot of like microtransactions, and everybody's looking for ways to make money and to go independent and to grow and this sort of thing. So there's a lot of experimentation going on, both in terms of gameplay and in terms of profit models. And so I can't come down so hard on this yet because I don't know enough about it. I remember, Bo, you and I, when we played the first Planet Side, at one point that game was not doing well. And the subscriber, it was working at the time under the old subscriber model, which was that you pay for an MMO $12 a month or something like that. Yeah. You have unlimited access. That's pretty much, aside from World of Warcraft aside, that's pretty much out the window now. But at the time of PlanetSide 1, they didn't know what to do. They didn't have enough subscribers. They needed to make money in different ways. They were trying to figure it out. And so they started having they struck a deal with this company Massive to put these ads in their games. And I remember being really pissed when it was happening because I'm paying this monthly fee, and now that there's these ads in the game. But what I was overlooking at the time was that the game was going to go out of business or not succeed if it didn't do this. So to have the game that I like to play, like I was going to have to put up with a couple of out of place ads in bases and stuff.
They were really awkwardly placed.
They were awkward, and it was a huge failure.
Well, not that I couldn't think of a good place to really put them besides loading screens. So
and it was an early stage type thing, and it was really like when you have a game that doesn't have enough players to begin with, like advertising companies aren't going to pay a ton of money to get to those players. It was obviously a failure, but at the same time, like this was like coming up on 10 years ago that they did this now. So the fact that they're still trying to find ways to and with ad blockers just becoming more and more prominent on browsers, companies are trying to find ways for people to see their ads. So who knows, maybe this is a viable option. I know that if I have an option to get no ads, I'm always going to take that option. But then again, I'm super loaded.
Yeah. And if you are playing a game that you would actually be like, actually leave the ads, that means you don't like the game that much. Like, it's not a good sign for the company anyways, because you're probably not invested in their franchise or their brand or whatever. And that might be the unique nature of mobile games where people play them for a day. Like, I don't know. Like, I find I check out mobile games, but unless I'm going to get hooked on it, the only money they're going to get out of me is my eyeballs.
Yeah, but
ads.
You're not the audience for mobile games because you're always at your computer with regular games. So, I mean, like, you're not going to be playing. That mobile games are for people who are on the bus or on the move and that sort of thing a little more.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I guess that settles it. The future is not in view-to-play games as far as I'm concerned. And, the people trying to make the future view-to-play games, and you probably know things that I don't know because I'm just some guy that does a podcast and you guys are luminaries of the gaming industry. But in my arrogant opinion, view-to-play games are not the future, and advertising is stupid, and monetize it some other way. Unless the advertising is like a good fit for the company or in a place that doesn't affect gameplay, it's not a big, just leave it alone. Just try something else. Make indie games, do anything else. I hate advertising. I'll stop there.
All right, those were Bo's views. I support some of them, but not most of them. All right.
So,
let's move into our next segment and talk about something more fun.
Inventory management is a challenging and inexact science.
That's one of my favorite bumpers, I think.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, it sort of grows on you.
Yeah.
Welcome to Inventory Management, where we answer the question, spend your cash or vendor trash? Crofton.
Am I going first?
Let's hear your recommendation first this week.
All right. My recommendation. So there's a news article we didn't touch on. It wasn't a big deal. It's more rumor speculation than anything. There are some job openings that were listed at Rockstar San Diego. And Rockstar, makers of Grand Theft Auto, which I am playing right now, they have a couple of other notable franchises or brand names. But the one that I want to recommend to you today is
oh, there it is on the camera live stream.
Red Dead Redemption. For those of you listening to the audio version, I apologize. I'm holding up the box of Red Dead Redemption right now for Xbox 360.
It's great looking box cover art.
It's everything about that game is super high quality. When we started this podcast, I knew at one point one of my recommendations was going to be Red Dead Redemption, and I didn't sit on it too long. I thought like I'd be sitting on it for a while, but it's really, of the last generation and maybe of all time, one of my all-time favorite games. I just think it's quality in every way, shape, or form. It's like the quality of Grand Theft Auto 5, a game that I'm enjoying now, but I don't enjoy much of the content in Grand Theft Auto 5, the douchebag characters, even the world that it's set in, like LA with all its freeways and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't necessarily appeal a ton, but Red Dead Redemption is set in the Old West, really nice sense of place. Awesome music, a great open world, but yet a really strong story. These two things don't necessarily go together, but yet it does in the case of this game. Everything about this game is great. When we do a list of top games of the last generation of consoles, I would not be surprised if Red Dead Redemption was on the top of my list. It is an amazing game. I give it my highest possible recommendation, and the reason it came to mind was these job openings at Rockstar San Diego. People are talking there may be a sequel to Red Dead Redemption in the works. Part of me is excited about that. I'm like, oh yeah, new consoles, new amazing graphics and all this. Another part of me is just happy with Red Dead Redemption and is willing to be like, to see them
don't make another else. One. Don't ruin my memory of this game.
Don't tarnish it in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, the one thing I would say is that Red Dead Redemption, like Rockstar bought the rights to Red Dead from Capcom that did Red Dead Revolver, which was a much more like traditional action game on the original PlayStation, on the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox. I played that, and it's a decent whatever game, but it's not like. It's like comparing apples to oranges. These Red Dead Redemption is untouchable. So total recommend for me.
How many enjoyment points out of 100?
I give it the maximum. What's the maximum? 100.
Well, the maximum is actually 9,999 because you can go over the 100.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I give it 9,998.
Enjoyment points. Awesome. I think
Yeah.
enjoyment points needs to be a thing on our show, considering the exclamation mark has a point in it. So,
It's true.
yeah, there's a connection there.
So, Bo, how are you going to
well,
possibly top
I'm
Red Dead
not going to
Redemption?
top Red Dead Redemption, but I'm going to say an amusing story about that is I think I bought Red Dead Redemption at the same time I bought one of the Gears of War for Xbox One, and I think those were two games I was playing concurrently, and the game I dropped was Red Dead Redemption. I was like, this is okay. The only thing I really enjoyed about it was playing poker and then shooting the people I played poker with. But
Oh God! See, the thing is, Red Dead is one of those. There's a ton.
It was
of
a good
open,
game. It just wasn't for me.
There's a ton of open world games that I have not finished, and they go on for a really long time or whatever. Red Dead also goes on for a really long time. But if you have not finished Red Dead, and when I say finished, I mean you need to finish it and then get to the epilogue. There is an epilogue, and you need to that when you put the controller down after all that, it's like I feel like I need to smoke afterwards. It is
Wow.
amazing.
So it's like orgasmic levels of enjoyment points. I mean, you did give it 9,998, so
Yeah,
that's a lot.
no, I know, and really, like, in terms of immersiveness, sense of place, characters, everything. I mean, there are moments that are not as good as others. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to certain areas, and they artificially like extend the story as they do in video games generally. But I mean, whatever. It was
Well,
sweet.
I know you liked it, and I'm a jerk for dropping
You are
it.
a
And
dumb
I think
jerk.
I even gave the game away at one point. I
You're
don't think I
so-
have it anymore. But what
It
I'm gonna
also incidentally was never released for PC.
yeah,
so
that made a big difference for me.
That's a big it's a console exclusive, and everybody talked about it, because they've released all the Grand Theft Autos, and now they've released Grand Theft Auto 5, and it seems like it's the time has passed on Red Dead Redemption. There was talk about how it was made on the back end being too complicated to port to PC, but I don't know anything about that. I just know that it is a little sad that it's not on PC.
I feel like all games are made on computers, not consoles. So if there was a will, there would have been a way. But whatever. There are plenty of things for PC players to do that no love is lost. However, my recommendation again is not a game because all I've been playing is Heroes of the Storm. So if you want to play a really fun game, play Heroes of the Storm. But I'm not going to recommend that. Also of excitement this week is Blizzard released a whole bunch of gameplay footage from their shooter game, Overwatch, and it's so much fun to watch. I cannot wait to play this game. I think they are Play Overwatch on YouTube, or just type in Overwatch and look for the user. They're in really high fidelity videos, and they look like a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to playing that game. Should be beta sometime this year. Hopefully I'll get in. Yep, that's my recommendation.
Is to watch a video?
Is to watch a video of Overwatch and get hyped up like me.
Is Overwatch a first-person shooter?
Indeed, it is. It's a team. It's like a Team Fortress. Like it's a 6v6 team on team sort of match. Like one of them's like a capture the flag kind of deal. The other one's something
hat
capture
simulator?
points. Yeah, it's still sort of unclear about what all the game modes will be, but there's some context given to them in that they're usually multi-stage objectives. So like on one stage, for example, you have to move this I don't know, this payload. It's called payload. You move a payload from point A to point B by standing on it, and the opposing team has to keep you from doing it. And if you make it to the payload site, then there's another type of game mode, which is defense point, that comes up and all that. So I don't know, seems interesting, but I recommend going and watching.
Load on you, Bo. Any day.
CrossFit.
But yeah, that sounds interesting. I do think you're a total Blizzard fanboy.
I am.
Because I mean, like, really, it just looks like it's another first-person shooter, and instead of playing Halo or whatever, it's Overwatch. But I mean,
you know what? You want to? If I'm gonna rant about something, why is Destiny not on PC? I so want to play that game. It's a shooter. It's not on PC. I don't have a next-gen console.
supposedly it's kind of crappy. I wouldn't worry. I have an
But it's a shooter, and I have a shooter hole in my life. I'm not gonna play. I'm not really big on Call of Duties, so give me something good to play.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of the shooters have migrated over to PC. You know what you should play? Bo, is that they've released an expansion of some sort to the Wolfenstein game you liked.
Oh yeah, that's on my to-do list for sure.
Old
Actually.
Blood
I'm
or
glad,
something.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that. That may be one I check out this week, actually.
Supposedly that game is, and you've said nothing
Wolfenstein: The
but
New
good
Order
things.
was amazing. It's an amazing shooter experience.
You might want to save that for your recommendation next time instead of some video on YouTube about some Blizzard game that's not.
It's true. I wish I thought of that too. I feel like I have to have played it recently to recommend, but no, that's not.
No, I didn't play this recently,
you played
but
that
it's
years ago.
amazing. For the listeners at home, I'm still holding up the box. It's just I'm moving it towards the camera and then moving it out
right.
and then
Well,
moving it back.
I failed in my inventory management, whereas you successfully inventory managementized.
But now I've blown Red Dead Redemption, which is now sad because like
It's one less feather in your cap.
how many episodes can I go before I recommend it again?
Look, I don't know. All I know is we've done this is 7th episode, and on 3 of them I have like failed to recommend games. Like they've been YouTube videos and movies. So,
That's true.
so
You're
I
failing.
kind of suck at this game. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so what does that leave us, Bo? It leaves us with closing out the show, I think, at this
I think
point.
so. I think we've been talking for like an hour. It's kind of one of our longer episodes, but Crofton, I love talking to you. So as long as the people at home enjoy listening to us blather on, then no harm, no foul. But
Plus, they have a fast forward button, right?
it's true.
For your parts.
Oh! Yeah, you know,
All
I'm a
right.
confident person. I don't need to respond to that with an insult. I'm just going to let you believe the misguided thing you believe.
Sure. All right. So let's do this here. Okay. What do we got? Mailbag items. Okay. First off, exmpodcast.com. That's our home on the web. We hope that you will come check out all our episodes. You can follow us on Twitter. We're tweeting away faithfully at exmpodcast.com. At exmpodcast. And we need all the followers we can get. So follow us. Tell your friends to follow us. You know, even the friends you don't like, if they follow us, that would be cool too. Maybe some of your enemies, if they followed us, we would have a lot of people.
We mean friends in the modern social media context, which doesn't actually mean what friends mean. It just means people you're linked to through social media.
Right, exactly. So, and you know what? We'll follow you back. We're trying to grow our networks and stuff, so that'd be sweet. Speaking of growing our networks, we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/EXM podcast. So like us and like when we post new things, and then all your friends will see how cool you are because you like this awesome show.
Please validate our egos.
Yeah. Yes, please do that. And also it'll help validate you because people will know that you're amazing. So you can also, if you want to write into the show, you can send us an email at which is exmpodcast@gmail.com. And any questions, if you want us to talk about anything, or I don't know, you want to be on the show or something, send us an email. We'll
let us know you're out there, seriously, because you know there are some probably really smart people listening that just don't write in and just don't do anything, and we
like
know you're
Bo's
out
mom.
there.
Hi, Bo's mom.
Yeah, is
All
she,
right.
is she watching today? I wonder.
I don't know.
We've got 5 viewers who watched the show today, so
Yeah, hey, viewers on Twitch.
I assume one of them's me and one of them's you, and 3 of them are people we don't know. And so,
one of
hello,
them's-
and thank you for joining us in the live stream.
That's right. So twitch.tv/EXM podcast. For those of you who want to participate in the live streams, we generally record Monday evenings. Also, Bo and I are hosts of the Good Bad Bull, Good Bad or Bullshit podcast, goodbadbull.com to check that out. It's a different type of show. But if you like our back and forth on this, you'll probably like our back and forth on that.
It's
as
the same
well.
thing, but no video games.
Yeah, except
Mostly,
I make video
yeah.
game references.
No, but we're not gonna, dish on video games that much, unless we feel like making Mike uncomfortable.
Okay, Bo, listen, if people want to follow
Wait, I want to
me
interrupt you some more.
on social media, how would they do that?
They can follow me at Bo Schwartz. There, they can find the links to all the stuff that you just talked about. You find me here at EXM Podcast. You'll find me at goodbadbull.com. You'll generally find me as a weekly contributor to Experience Points for the 3rd hour when we're playing Blizz Heroes with Scott Johnson. And there'll be more to come, I'm sure. So follow me at Bo Schwartz and find out that information.
Sure, I do all that stuff except the stuff with Scott Johnson. I'm at Croft and Steers on Twitter. So I'm on GBB and I'm on this show, and we appreciate you guys listening. Those of you on the live stream, thanks so much, and those of you listening traditionally, thanks so much as well. We appreciate your support, and hopefully
Absolutely.
you will tell people about how awesome our show is and how it always ends with this amazing segment called Master Game Theater.
It's now time for Master Game Theater.
So, Bo, what do we got today?
Well, today, when I was researching material for this, I thought, Crofton really likes Batman. I think there's got to be some good Batman stuff. So today we are going to do a little piece. It's a two-parter, so it'll be both of us doing a little piece from Batman Arkham City. And Crofton, I'd like to know who you'd like to play, since this is a game that you like. You get to choose who you want to be.
So what are my choices, Bo?
You can be the Batman, or you can be the Joker.
Okay, so when given this choice, generally everybody wants to take Batman, although Joker is a meatier part, right? Like that's the. But then if I do Joker, I'm always going to be compared to Heath Ledger now, or maybe Jack Nicholson. That's a lot to live up to, right? Where Batman,
It's Christian Bale, he sucks.
I'm pretty sure I could do the Christian Bale voice right now. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna test myself. I'm gonna do Joker. You do Batman.
Remember, this is the video game Batman. He doesn't have to be like, I am the Batman. He can. He's more of a stalwart, like.
No, he's the guy from Batman the Animated Series. He's the Batman.
All right.
I'm.
You should
Mark
pick
Hamill.
the one that you feel you're going to do the most justice. and
Probably
that you wanna
Joker.
do.
I have a high pitched voice. I'll do Joker. Oh yeah, I start right.
Yeah. So whenever you're ready, let's do this.
Okay, here we go. Master Game Theater. I'm Joker. Okay, here we go. Are you happy now?
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
That actually is pretty funny.
Beep, 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 boop. Beep, 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 boop. Beep, 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 boop.